On your lap.
Loaded show for this Friday, September the 26th. Wager Talk Today. We are live at noon Eastern, archive 24/7 afterwards for your viewing pleasure. I am Steve Merril, filled in for Andy Lang. Don't you worry, he'll be back on Monday, but he'll also be here Sunday, I believe, for End Zone Line, unless he's going to the fourth round of the golf tournament. So maybe I spoke a little prematurely, but nonetheless, I will be running the ship today, and we've got a great show on Friday, NFL heavy, as Friday should be, as we head into this great weekend of college and pro football. Going to start off with Yanni the Greek with the Steam Report. Teddy covers, Marco D'Angelo, Kelly Stewart. What a great show. Let's get right to it. And Yanni, 2 days in a row. What a treat. What a pleasure. We broke the news yesterday that your Steam room will be free on Sunday. Just a reminder, we'll talk a little bit more about the details for that in a moment, but I want to get to what's the Steam Report for Friday.
Indeed. Yeah, real slow so far. Major League Baseball, just two dogs got bet. Detroit plus 110 and Minnesota plus 140. Even been slow so far as looking into the weekend, college football and NFL. Yesterday, we saw a lot of the college football totals get hit. That usually happens on Thursday. Later tonight, with all of the NFL injury reports being looked over with a fine-tooth comb, you'll start seeing some NFL movement over the next 24 hours. But it isn't until Sunday when we get a lot of the public money weighing in and forcing the books to adjust to limit some of the risk that we'll see some of the bigger movements. Now, we do have some primetime action tonight. I already fired two premium plays to subscribers, both 4% best bets on tonight's college football. Currently number one in college football in 2025. Coming off a loser last night with Arizona, man. Still number one over the last 30 days in profit. That one burned. Got a push on the total, but stung a little bit because I thought we were going to catch that one. All right. So here's what we got looking at tonight's college football. One-sided action on Florida State and Virginia. A lot of Florida State money, a lot of over money as well. Florida State teased with the over. Florida State parlayed with the over. Florida State money line. Florida State teased into other games. So there's a lot of risk on Florida State. I'm surprised it's not painted 7 all across the board. In fact, earlier this morning, it did get painted across at 7s. So obviously someone bet Florida State that got some respect, but then immediately came back down to 6.5. So obviously you're seeing some sharp money grabbing the 7s at even money, it looks like, on Virginia. So the books, I think, no, if they go to 7, put it at even money, juice the VIG to the -7, they'll probably get some love on the Virginia side. Arizona State, TCU, this is one of those dogs that are getting love by the betting public. TCU being teased up. I don't know why they're using them in teasers, but they are taking them up to like +9. I see them in 7-point teasers up to +10. I guess it sounds safe, but they're taking TCU. They're taking TCU money line. They're also betting that game over. But as you can see, Steam came in on the under as soon as that over came out at 56.5. You saw some under money come in. And then finally, the last game, Houston, Oregon State, all one-sided. Surprised that's not at 14 yet. And it'll be interesting. Watch that odds logic screen and at least the Wager Talk odds screen to see if it gets to 14, does it get bit? Because I haven't seen it yet at my sharp outs. I've seen 13.5. I've seen 13.5 -115, but I haven't seen 14s yet. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. And no surprise, that game's also getting bet over by the recreational bettors. But you did see some sharp money come in under of the opener at 48.5, but there hasn't been any follow through on that one. So again, just to reiterate, one-sided public money on Florida State, TCU, and in Houston, and all three overs by the betting public. Wise guys seem to like the under in Arizona State, under in Houston as well. And it looks like they're picking off any 7s on Virginia at even money or better.
Yeah, all 3 games tonight are standing on key numbers, and we touched on this a little yesterday. 6.5, 7 on the Florida State game, like you said. Arizona State's gone from 2.5 to 3. And then, as you said, Houston, 13.5, hasn't moved all week. Hard to like Oregon State. They've been about as ugly as any team in college football, yet that line has not hit that key number of 14. Yanni, I got to ask you too about last night. I mean, once again, an NFL game comes right down to the number, lands 43. Had it gone to overtime, maybe it lands 46. The look-ahead line the week earlier was actually 46.5, and then they opened at 42.5, 43.5, all around that range. These NFL lines, we talked about teasers yesterday. Obviously, the stronger the lines are, the more accurate, the better teasers are. But these NFL numbers are incredible. College football numbers, in my opinion, have been incredible. I've lost several games now by half a point this season in college football with 4 or 5 touchdown favorites. Have you noticed this as well? I mean, I know they get sharper every year, but they seem to be point on so far this year.
100%. And I mean, it just goes back to the simple rule of don't take bad numbers and have multiple outs to shop. And if the number passes you by, let it go. Like if you don't have the power to move the market and bring the number back, which 99.99999% of us don't, then let it go. That's the bottom line. I just tried to make it a rule not to take bad numbers because I got burned so many times because you think you're on the sharp side, but you're not if you're on it at a bad number. And that was the case, in the NFL where the margins are so slim. I talk about it all the time. You see a 1-point line movement and sharp money ends up on both sides of the game. Like the lines are that tight in the NFL where it's not surprising when, lines move 1 or 1.5 point to see a difference of opinion from respected winning bettors. Because again, the lines are that tight in the NFL, which also helps the teaser, which you touched on. And yesterday was a great example. I talked about that. And fortunately I have an Arizona teaser that's still live. And that's exactly a perfect situation to use it in. When you got the NFL and you got lines that are a market that's efficient, that's exactly what you want for the teaser. You want the game to land near the number. That's what when you cash your teaser. Otherwise, you don't need the extra points. So for me, that ended up being a good result. But again, it goes to show you so many of those games come down to that slimmest of margin. And not only is every half point matter, but we talk about it's the difference between being a winning bettor and a losing bettor. You go 10-10. The juice is going to eat you up. You go 11-9, you could continue to make money over and over and over again. That's one game every 20. So that half a point could be the difference between being a winning bettor and a losing bettor every so often. It really does matter that much. And I can't stress it enough, especially in an age where people don't, the argument, they're still arguing 2025, whether CLV matters. And you still have, bettors betting big numbers that are out there talking about, it doesn't matter. CLV doesn't matter. The number doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is cashing a ticket. If the bet wins, it's a good bet. Like that kind of nonsense. And nothing could be further from the truth. So again, don't take bad numbers. Every half point matters. And if the number passes you by and you didn't get down, let it go. Wait for a better bet.
Yeah, and it depends on what type of bettor you are. If you're in Las Vegas for 2 days and you're making 5 total bets on the weekend, then it probably doesn't matter as much if you get a good or bad number because it, once again, just about cashing tickets. But if you're doing this daily, as all of us are and all of our clients hopefully are, it adds up. And I love the analogy. 1 out of 20 bets, that's all you need to cash with that half point. You're going to cover the VIG for several bets. And right now, Florida State just dropped to 6.5 flat at Caesars. It's still 7.05 minus 115 the other way at like Westgate. I mean, these are major books. You could shop around by just having multiple accounts right now and get either 6.5 or 7, depending on which side you like for Florida State, Virginia. Very reasonable juice either way. And there's probably a 4 to 5% chance the Seminoles win by exactly 7 points tonight.
Yeah,
and that's free. Free. It costs nothing to do that.
Tonight, right now, if you like Florida State, if you bet Florida State and you have a -7 ticket, you're doing it wrong.
Right.
And if you have Virginia and you have +6.5 bet, you're doing it wrong. I hope you win. I hope you cash those bets, but I promise you that's a recipe for not long-term success. Like that you're not going to win long-term doing it that way. You don't want to be like when there's a better number available out there, you want to have it. If you're not betting it, then, again, you're doing it the wrong way.
And one final thing I'll say about the late game tonight at 10:30 Eastern, Houston, Oregon State. It's hard for a novice bettor, for a recreational bettor, maybe to know which way the market's going to move. But in this situation, don't try to guess. If you like Houston, you play the -13.5 now. If you like Oregon State, you wait and hope to maybe get a +14 by kickoff in 10 hours or so. And the reason I say that is because the risk reward going from 13 to 13.5 is not as bad as going from 13.5 to 14 and vice versa with the dog. So that's the way I look at it. Do you agree, disagree? I mean, it's another way to play if you're a recreational player trying to get the better of the numbers.
100%. That's great advice, and something like you said that anybody can do. You know, you don't have to be a pro to do that and get a better number. I absolutely think that's something people should use. Real quickly, because Roger, I got to address this because my man says Seahawks and under teaser was as good as gold. Please, just because a bet wins doesn't make it a great bet. I'm just telling you this. I'm not talking from a level of authority. I'm talking from experience. Mathematically, this isn't an opinion. This is just the math of it. Just because a small sample size of 20, 30 bets looks profitable, if the math shows that it's a negative EV bet, long-term, after more and more bets, like the end result's already predetermined. What I'm trying to explain is if you're teasing NFL totals, you're already placing negative EV bets. So regardless of your short-term results, the end result is predetermined, kind of like the casino or the slot machine. They know what they're going to take in before they pay out. The end result for the house is predetermined. They know their profit before they pay out. Even if the teaser is cashing over 20, 30 bets, I promise you, over statistically significant sample size, you get into a couple hundred bets, it will no longer be profitable. That's why you just don't want to tease NFL teasers. Again, our job here is to try to educate, and most of the education comes from experiences and mistakes that I made myself and was taught by bettors sharper than me. And it's our job to pass that information along. So please don't ever take it as an insult, because it's not stuff that anybody should know unless somebody shares that with you. And I'm just telling you, mathematically, teasing NFL totals is negative EV. That means the house expects you to lose money. You're not getting the best of it. If it's working for you, cash tickets, but it's just not a good long-term blueprint.
It's funny. When you jumped on that, I was thinking the whole time, you don't want to tease the Seahawks, but you're right about the totals. Yeah, you don't tease NFL totals. There's not enough key numbers you're crossing. You can maybe make an argument 36.5 up to 42.5 or vice versa with 37 and 41, but that was the old days. We don't see that anymore.
Yes.
And even then, it technically probably wasn't good enough. And now we're not getting even money or minus 110.
And you're laying 125s, 130s, 135s. Right. Yeah.
But yeah, you also don't want to tease over zero with the Seahawks. Although last night's game had a chance of going to overtime and ending in a tie. It's just, there's too many dead numbers. What's a better bet is playing the under and playing the Seahawks separately and not having to win two plays to bait the ticket cash. By the way, if you missed yesterday's episode, Roger probably saw it, but if you missed it, we went a deep dive into NFL teasers, Yanni and myself, Steve Merril. So rewatch the Thursday, September 25th episode after this for some great teaser info. And yeah, I'm going to let you run, but we do have a question real quick about the UFC when I wanted to get to a big fight this weekend. Jake was asking your thoughts on the UFC for this Saturday.
Real quick, main event. I like Oldberg. He's got too much power for Reyes. Reyes has 3 straight wins, but if you look at the level of competition, the only good one was that first one against Jacoby where, he just landed a big punch and got him out of there. So I like the favorite in the main event. And here's a reverse line movement that I see everybody betting this, and I don't agree with it. Everybody's taking hold of that Colby Thickness. He's Volkanovski's training partner. He lost his debut to Topuria's little brother, if you remember. He's going up against Musasa. Dude, Musasa lost his debut as a minus 800 favorite, okay? He's very good. He's a very, very good. He got caught in a submission in the very first round. He opened in this fight as a minus 300 favorite. That's where he should be, around a minus 300 favorite. He's now down to minus 150 because of the Alexander Volkanovski connections with the Thickness side and people seeing Musasa getting subbed like that in the very first round. Trust me, this kid's a lot better than that. I remember him from the Contender Series, doing research on him. He wins this fight at minus 150 is a gift. So there, take Josias Musasa on Saturday. And like I said, in the main event, Oldberg knocks out Reyes.
Love it. A little UFC from Yanni the Greek as well. And don't forget, his Steam Room is free this Sunday. You will see him again tomorrow, by the way, at 11 a.m. Eastern on Last Call Saturday. You'll see him again Sunday, I believe, at 11 a.m. Eastern on NFL Last Call. But then you got the Steam Room at noon Eastern Sunday. Tell us more about that. It's free for everybody this week.
Yep. Join us at noon Eastern. We're going to go through every NFL game. I'll share all the information I have, signed, totals, props. We'll have live bets coming in as we go over money management, year-to-date results, the goal as we close out the end of the year. And hopefully we're coming off a huge college football Saturday. I love tomorrow's board. In fact, we're kicking it off tonight. This week's the college football. There's 4% in there for you subscribers. Already get down and let's have a big weekend. UFC tomorrow. I love that card. There's 4% already in there. It's a really, really good card in Perth. Let's do some damage this weekend and just keep grinding. Thanks for having me, Steve. Good luck to you, brother.
Yanni, good luck to you. Always great to see you, my man. And once again, you can catch him tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern here on Last Call. You can talk more UFC tomorrow because we do take the live questions in the chat on the Last Call shows during the weekend. So be sure to watch. And, of course, if you do miss the live episodes, you can watch all these shows archived 24/7. I referenced yesterday's Thursday Wager Talk Today, September 25th. Check that out for a deep dive between Yanni and myself, Steve Merril, on NFL teasers. It's must-see TV. Lots of promos going on at Wager Talk this weekend, but I also want to point out one of the sister sites, which is new to the family, picksandparlays.net. Grab $7 best bets from all participating handicappers this Friday. Right now, picksandparlays.net. $7 best bets. I don't have a $7 bill, but you can imagine $5 Tuesday Abe Lincoln plus a couple George Washingtons gets you a strong best bet this Friday at picksandparlays.net. And then, of course, at wagertalk.com, tons of special offers. Too many to mention here on the show. So go to the website, check out any cappers page. You will see them. We have a 1-year all access, which is the best offer, in my opinion, for just $3 a day. All sports, all access. And you can mix and match cappers, get multiple cappers, no promo code needed, and get best bets for $3 a day. That's about $1 a play for the next full 365 days and nights. Check out all the special offers and all the daily free plays at wagertalk.com. All right, let's keep it rolling. We've got Kelly Stewart coming up, Marco D'Angelo, but we got Teddy Covers. And Teddy, I got to do a better job of watching these Friday episodes because I'm told there's a sauce pick of the week or something coming up from Marco. I'm told you and I have to make two sides for NFL games. So you got to walk me through this. You were the co-host for years of this show. What's going on here on Fridays? Help me out.
So we're going to talk a little NFL, a little college football, and then we have this Sell Me segment where
okay. So I got time to prepare still then.
Well, the whole concept is neither one of us prepares for it. Dan picks a game, and we
perfect.
You get assigned a side, and I get assigned a side, and we try to sell the other person on that side. So
that's how I like to roll. I don't prepare, so I'm good to go. What do you want to talk about first?
Let's see. What note do I have up top? I have Eagles Bucks first.
Sounds good. So. Yeah, Tampa's interesting to me, Teddy, because they lost the coordinators. Mayfield had a huge season last year. The Eagles coming off the Super Bowl. Really your take on both these teams and, of course, this game as well.
Sure. I mean, it's the only matchup of 3-0 teams this weekend, or both teams are 3-0. Of course, looking at the odds logic live odds screen right now, I'm seeing Philadelphia minus 3.5 total. There's 43.5s out there. There's 44s out there. There's a couple of 44.5s out there. So let's call it 44, 3.5 and 44 for Philadelphia in Tampa. And of course, Philadelphia is 19-1 straight up in their last 20 games. Of course, their 21st game last year, week 4, they went to Tampa and they lost. The previous season, they went to Tampa in the playoffs and lost. And neither one of them particularly close, 33-16, 32-19. Jalen Hurts just 1-3 against the Bucs, including that playoff loss. Now, it is worth noting that in both of those losses, relatively recent losses for Philadelphia against Tampa, they did not have A.J. Brown available for either of those games. And A.J. Brown was certainly a difference maker last week when Philly rallied from behind to beat the Rams. 6 catches, 109 yards, and a touchdown in that ball game. But, you read the quotes out of Philadelphia talking about what Tampa does, why Tampa's giving them credit, why Tampa's giving them problems, and you see some credit going towards Tampa. Hurts, quote, Bowles got a lot of tools and a lot of things in his system. What he does, that is very challenging. That's what makes them such a great team and a great defense. Of course, the defending champs, 3-0, but they've won those games by a grand total of 14 points. They managed just 33 yards of offense in the first half last week before going nuts in the second half. And Saquon Barkley, we have to talk about Barkley because this is a guy that had, 430 plus rushing attempts last year, counting regular season and playoffs. And he's not a young guy to begin with. He's an 8-year vet. So when you have a guy who's an 8-year vet and that kind of mileage on his legs and that kind of mileage last year, you expect a drop off. That's just what we've seen. 3 games as long as just 16, 3.3 yards per carry. Right now, Saquon Barkley is a bet against when you're talking about any type of prop you can find for them. And that, in my mind, makes Philadelphia weaker. It makes it more difficult for the Eagles to win games by margin. Of course, he's facing a Tampa defense that hasn't allowed a single 100-yard rusher in the last 11 games. That's best in the NFL during that span. And of course, it's a Bucs team. You ask me, would you rather have 3 blowouts or 3 come from behind wins to open the season? And I'll take the latter as opposed to the former any day of the week. When a team comes from behind to win games, to win battles, boy, the confidence, they're battle tested. The confidence rises when they're faced with adversity. They can handle it. And that's exactly what Baker Mayfield and company have done so far this season. Mayfield, quote, resilient group. We stick together, the whole team. When one part or phase of it's a little down, others have to step up and be there for you. That's what this team is all about. We support each other no matter what. Worth noting, Philadelphia does have some significant injury concerns for this ball game. So does Tampa, but Tampa could get Chris Godwin back. They could get Tristan Wirfs back this week to impact players on the offensive side. We know Mike Evans is out for Tampa, but, Nolan Smith, Jacorian Bennett, Darius Cooper all just went on injured reserve. Lane Johnson's been limited in practice all week. He left last Sunday's game with a stinger. Zach Bond is a concern this week. Adoree Jackson hasn't practiced. So Philly's a little banged up. They're laying a price against a team that's matched up well against them. I think it's a little too high. If I'm playing, I want the home dog in this one. Bucks or pass for this better.
The Bucks are barking, says Teddy Covers in the NFL this Sunday. 2 teams off to a good start. And Teddy, want to look at some college football while we've got you. I did a standalone video for this game earlier in the week, so I want to get your thoughts as well. And it's number 26 Auburn against number 9 Texas A&M, and that's because Auburn fell out of the rankings this past week. They are getting the most votes in the additional votes there in the AP poll, so they are the 26th team technically in the country. So it just missed out on my top 25 video here on WagerTalk TV. Obviously, if they pull the upset, they will be ranked again, but Texas A&M is the home favorite, off to a good start this season. What's your thoughts on this one in the SEC?
Sure, let's talk about it. 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 here on the left coast. Texas A&M, looking at the Odds Logic live odds screen, -6.5, total in the 53 range against Auburn. And it's pretty much painted 6.5. I don't see 7s out there at all. And there's a reason we're not seeing 7s. That's because A&M has a very dicey statistical profile on defense. They're 0-2 against the spread as favorites this year. They didn't get the stops against Utah State. They didn't get the stops against Texas San Antonio. And frankly, they didn't get stops against Notre Dame either. 3-0 to the over Texas A&M this season. So my handicap begins with thinking about Texas A&M's defense. Is this defense capable? Are these stats misleading? Are they vulnerable? That's the question. So let's break it down. Obviously you beat Notre Dame, you get a bye week. That's a good thing. All right. You come back home, you're feeling good about yourself, but then you have time to come back to earth and start focusing on the next opponent. Obviously, there's an overtime loss element. There's a revenge element for Texas A&M, who lost by an OT to this team last year. So that's certainly a good focus maker. So I like a team off a bye with focus, and that appears to be the situation here. But, they're 103rd in the country in scoring defense, 72nd in rushing defense, 66th in total defense, right? Which is a far cry from what Auburn saw last week against Oklahoma, who's top 10. In almost all of those categories. But I'm not as concerned as the betting markets are about the Aggies defense. All right. The talent is there. Elko's a good defensive mind. And just because they've had some early season struggles, we project forward. I think this defense might be pretty good. I know already the offense is pretty good. And I know already that Auburn's offensive line has issues. When Jackson Arnold gets sacked, 9-10 times last week, it's clearly a problem. Sooners pass rush gave Auburn all kinds of issues in that ball game. And I think Texas A&M stronger offensively than Oklahoma. I know they're stronger offensively than Oklahoma is. So if I believe in the Aggies defense and I trust their offense, well, that doesn't make me excited about Auburn. And look, Auburn has 4 straight losing seasons. First under Brian Harsin, now under Hugh Freeze. The big week 1 win over Baylor is devalued a bit. Baylor just lost at home to Arizona State too. It's a scenario in which, Auburn's receivers could be able to take advantage of one-on-one coverage. They couldn't do it against Oklahoma. But I think the Aggies are the undervalued commodity in this matchup because of that defensive profile that isn't pretty yet. And I think the defense, from my eye test, I think the defense is better than what we've seen. So it's Aggies or over for this better. That's the only way I can look here. Texas A&M minus the points and or over the total. That's the way I lean for Saturday in College Station.
And if you like Aggies and the over, maybe you'd be interested in the Aggies team total over. And of course, the college football team totals pop up more on game day, but right now I'm seeing it at 29.5. So you're getting that key number of 30 and 31 working for you. I guess you would not be opposed to that as well.
Yeah, so part of my thought process here is that I think Texas A&M's defense is a little better than their statistical profile would indicate. I wouldn't necessarily parlay the two, but I think the over kind of hedges you a little bit with the A&M side. If their defense, if the statistical profile is real with their defense, then you can cash your over ticket. I think the Aggies will get theirs, but I don't know if I'm looking to go Aggies team total over. I'd rather have full game over between the two teams that protects your Texas A&M bet.
Like it. Yeah, no, I do that quite often. And when I'm doing these videos, I'll mention that as well. In case we're a little bit wrong, the hedge on the other side, or worse, you go 1-1. Let me ask you your thoughts on these early bye weeks. You mentioned Texas A&M, 3-0 start, big win. Bye maybe came at a good time for that reason. I think teams would probably prefer to have them usually later in the season just to get rested and healthy. We see this with a lot of teams this week, though. Alabama, Georgia, both coming off the bye week for that huge game, I believe. And then Penn State's coming off a bye week. Oregon's not, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, in those games. How do you factor in these early September bye weeks for college football? I'm sure it's like the NFL, right? It's situational, but in general, how do you approach that?
So it's absolutely a team-by-team basis. It's absolutely a case-by-case basis. In the instance of Texas A&M, all right, when you're coming off a huge win, all right, when you go to Notre Dame and knock off the Irish obviously played for the national title last year. The Irish beat them in College Station last year. That was a huge win for the team. And the way they did it, basically, come from behind on the final series of the game to get the wild victory. You like a bye week in that spot. All right. It makes the team much better prepared to deal with their next opponent. That said, a lot of them are, late season bye weeks are probably more meaningful from a banged up perspective than early season bye weeks. But, and many teams in college football have 2 bye weeks now. Again, when I first moved to Vegas, Ohio State and Michigan was played on Thanksgiving weekend. And that was the last weekend of college football. And then we added one more, and it goes into December. So teams have more buys than they used to. A lot of teams have 2 buys. So it's not like, and sometimes you have coach-specific track records that are worth paying attention to. But there's lots of factors to consider in college football. Coming off a bye is just one of them.
I agree. I think in this case, it is a good thing as well after the emotional road dog win to reset and get healthy again. That's a physical game also. And don't forget, these SEC teams a lot play like nothing teams in November. They play some of those FCS opponents later in the season than they used to, and that's almost like a mini bye week as well later in the season. All right, before we let you go, the Sell Me segment, first time I've ever done this. So does Dan pop on the screen? How does this
yes.
work?
Yes, indeed. I pop on the
only
screen
reason I
here,
wanted to
Steve.
say, I get to see Dan earlier than normal. That's the only thing good about this segment.
You don't get to get away from it. And Steve, I'm hoping you can step in here because no shade to Andy. He's kind of been Teddy's punching bag here. I'm pretty sure the side that Teddy has had to break down, and we randomly do this. I mean, this is the first time you've ever heard it. I give you both a side here, and Teddy has gone 3-0 thus far. So maybe you should say that I'm the best at picking which side Teddy has to break down.
Yeah, I was just going to say,
you can look at it.
No matter how good or bad I make this argument, if I have the losing side, there's nothing I can do, correct? You got
That's exactly it, but it's a hell of a game that we got this week, guys. You're going to be selling me on the Ravens or the Chiefs. And Steve, we will have Teddy go first here since it's the first time that you've ever seen this. And Teddy, you've had to break down games on the Chiefs, against the Chiefs. This time they're sitting here as a home dog. And both of you guys, when do we see these two teams facing off under 500? It feels very rare that you're talking a Ravens and Chiefs game that both teams are under 500. But Teddy, Kansas City Chiefs, you bet on them, you bet against them, you've been right both ways that you've done it. Now you got to let me know why the home dog is the side. Sell me this NFL side, Teddy.
Sure, this is simple. All right, and in my mind, Baltimore has this power rating. All right. I talked to guys after they lost on Monday Night Football. I'm like, the Ravens are 1-2. Like, oh no, Baltimore's the best team in the NFL. By far, the Ravens are the best team in the NFL. And this point spread tells us that Baltimore is being priced like the best team in the NFL, despite the fact they're 1-2, despite the fact their defense has been gashed, despite the fact that Kansas City has owned them in the postseason. Baltimore's still priced in a range where they shouldn't be priced at. I don't think Baltimore's a field goal better than Kansas City on any field. And in Arrowhead, with the Chiefs' season on the line, the point spread's wrong. And KC is a clear choice as home dogs. +3, count me in.
Steve, sometimes I just want to have Teddy debate himself and break down both sides of the game.
We'll
play it like like one of those like Stephen A clips where he's flip-flopped and breaks down a different side. But no, Teddy is not breaking down the side of the Baltimore Ravens. Road chalk here, Steve. What are you thinking as they're coming off that loss against Detroit at home, mind you? Sell me this NFL side, Steve.
Yeah, I think most handicappers would make good attorneys because you can sell both sides like Teddy and I. But I think there's no question Teddy Covers and Steve Merril would have been the best two attorneys that didn't become attorneys at WagerTalk. And I think both of us at some point probably thought about becoming attorneys back in the 80s and 90s. So I know that for a fact. And we're both government majors, I think. So a lot of similarities. First of all, Teddy, don't necessarily disagree with you, Kansas City +3, but I'm looking at the Odds Logic live odds screen. I'm seeing 2.5s across the board. So I'm laying it with the Ravens at -2.5. Hey, 9 to 10% chance the Chiefs lose by exactly 3. That very well might be the difference in this game. And as we talked about earlier in the episode with Yanni the Greek, if you like Baltimore, you play -2.5 now. It's juiced -115 in a lot of spots, -120. If you like Kansas City, you wait and try to get a +3 by Sunday. And my early initial public data does look like the Ravens will be the more public side. So if you like the Chiefs, you find a +3, hopefully late kickoff. I like the Ravens. I'd much rather have the -2.5 if you're playing a side here, because I do feel they're the better team. And one of these teams is going to be 1-3 after Sunday. Well, they could both be 1-2-1, not likely. One of them is going to be 1-3, and I think it's more likely the Kansas City Chiefs. And coming into the season, the Chiefs have been a play against team for me, not just because they lost the Super Bowl. We know that those teams almost half the time don't even make the postseason the next year, but because they looked so bad in the Super Bowl. It wasn't a fluky loss. You know, when the Eagles and Chiefs played recently, it was a close game. Both teams bounced back the next year. When the Patriots lost a few times, it was always a close game. They bounced back. The Chiefs got blown out. They had serious problems on the O-line, serious problems at receiver. They've gotten a little bit better on the O-line, not saying much. Still have a short-sighted receiver core, in my opinion. And you look at what they've done so far. They were outplayed by the Chargers, and they were outplayed in week 2. And then they bounced back against the Giants. The Giants have scored single digits against both the Chiefs and the Commanders. Their only breakout game was against the Cowboys, who have stopped nobody except for a lightning delay. That's the only thing that's helped the Cowboy defense all season. I like Baltimore in this one, and as long as it stays at 2.5 or less, it's a straight-up win situation. Yes, the Chiefs are probably a small favorite this summer. Now it's flipped, but it still hasn't crossed that key number of 3 either way. I like the Ravens to go to 2-2, and at 2.5 or less, it's basically a straight-up win situation on Sunday.
Well, Teddy, we did everything to explain the segment to Steve other than tell him it's a 3-sentence minimum. But it is a solid breakdown there, Steve.
Teddy went more than 3. I didn't realize that.
No, there were a lot of commas. There were a lot of colons. It's all sentences. Good.
Yeah, you can.
One thing I will say, two experts at their craft, because Steve made sure that he hung out with Derek Stevens over at Circa and laid 2.5. Teddy made sure that he was hanging out with John Murray at the Superbook and took the 3. That's the real point here. Hey, Dan, Steve said 2.5, and I'll take 3.
I'm calling it right now. I'll say a Ravens 3-point win. Do I get bonus points for predicting the exact score?
The mic drop, Teddy.
We'll see what happens.
The true mic drop is Teddy letting us know, what do you got to promote here, Teddy, before we turn things over to Marco?
Sure. We had a big weekend last weekend. 4-0 in college football, 6-1 overall. The only loser was the frickin' LA Rams, but we're over it. And looking to do it again this week. I'll take a 6-1, no problem. Locked and loaded already with 1 in the NFL, 2 in college, and we'll be adding plays throughout the day as well. So check out my homepage, wt.buzz/TC. Weekend Warrior package, $49. Buy 30 days, get 30 days for $3. It's like, it's a really good deal there, $3 a day. And of course, the full season, the full year at $99 a month is a great deal as well. So short-term, medium-term, long-term, however you want to get on board, do it now. Visit my homepage, wt.buzz/TC.
And as I said earlier, there's some great specials there for everybody. Always great to see Teddy Covers and find out his opening line report also was Monday live. And like I said, archived 24/7. So if you want to see Teddy's thoughts on every NFL game, check out the opening line report every Monday afternoon. or Monday late morning, I guess now, Teddy. When do you do it live? 11 a.m. Eastern, I believe, before WagerTalk TV, correct?
I know late afternoon Monday, 8 a.m. my time, dude. Right.
But what it used to be 1
early.
Eastern, it's 11 a.m. Eastern now, right? So
Correct.
It's morning Eastern time as well.
Yeah, before lunchtime. So when the lines are starting to move, we get you in front of those line moves every Monday, live right here on WagerTalk TV.
11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, before lunch, during breakfast, depending on what time zone you're in on Mondays. And, of course, archived 24/7 here on WagerTalk TV. All right, let's get to Marco D'Angelo, and we got Kelly Stewart still. And, Marco, I didn't really prepare either way because I was told not to, plus I wasn't going to. But I kind of had a little bit of a cheat here at the last second. I realized you and I are talking Raiders-Bears. So Dan had said it was either going to be the Chiefs-Ravens or Raiders-Bears game for that. I was 99% sure. That was the sure bet that we were doing Ravens-Chiefs because you and I are talking Raiders-Bears. What are your thoughts on this one? Your Las Vegas Raiders against somebody. We don't have any Chicago guys. That's hard to believe. That's a sports. That's where the point spread was invented 90 years ago, was in Chicago. Little known fact. What are your thoughts on this one, Bears-Raiders?
Well, the Raiders are my adopted team. I'm still the Steelers.
I know.
But you know what? These two teams, they were good to me last week because I read both of the games right involving these two teams. I had the Bears as an actual client play last week, but it wasn't because of the Bears. It was because I was going against Dallas. Dallas was in a horrible spot last week, having to go to Chicago, coming off that thriller against the Giants, that overtime win where both teams went up and down the field. And then look at who Dallas has on deck, that they're playing this week. They've got that game with Green Bay and Micah Parsons on Sunday Night Football. So I thought it was a horrible spot for the Cowboys last week, and that's why we were on the Bears. And then same thing with the Raiders. Obviously, being here in Vegas and doing Vegas radio, I had to break that game down, and I said Raiders were in trouble last week. The Vegas team had to travel to the East Coast for the second time in 3 weeks. They opened a season in New England, then played that Monday night football game. And if you remember, that was a double header on Monday night. So that game was even later, a 7 p.m. start here in Vegas. And then they had to travel to Washington on a short week. Horrible spot for them. Washington ran roughshod over them. But this week, different story. I think Pete Carroll was going to be able to get his first home win as Raiders head coach. Caleb Williams, he had a good game last week, but let me just remind you, Russell Wilson 2 weeks ago against that Cowboy defense had 455 yards passing. So just about anybody's going to have a good game against the Cowboys defense. It'll be a different story against the Raiders this week. I think the Raiders get the job done. We've seen this line sitting basically at 1.5 basically all week. No movement there, even though Chicago looks live based on last week's results. Not the right side. I'm taking the Raiders and Pete Carroll. First home win. Let's call it Raiders 27-20.
Yeah, I was saying that earlier, Marco. I mean, the Cowboys defense, except for the lightning delay, haven't stopped anybody all season, right? The only thing that helped the Cowboys defense was a 1 hour delay in that opener against the Eagles. And Giants single digits in their other two games. They put up almost 37 points against Dallas. That's pretty high. And then you see with Chicago. So we'll see if the Bears are improving under the new coaching staff. It often takes 3 or 4 weeks to adjust, and we'll see if they're heading in the right direction or not against your Las Vegas Raiders. Hey, speaking of college football, your Penn State Nittany Lions, I would assume, have a huge game against the Oregon Ducks. And this is probably one of the best games of the season. It's a rematch from last year's Big Ten championship game on Pearl Harbor Day last December. I did a standalone video on this. It's, of course, in my college football top 25 video as well. So I'm very interested to hear your thoughts on this huge game Saturday, Oregon and Penn State.
Well, let's start with the elephant in the room right away, and that's James Franklin, okay? Everybody knows how he has struggled when he's faced, top 25 teams. More importantly, top 5 teams. He's 1-18 straight up against teams ranked in the top 5. If we want to put an asterisk on it, Oregon's not in the top 5. They're 6th. Okay. So, but it doesn't get much better because against top 10, he's 4-20. But coming into this season, and I said it at the beginning of the season, on paper, this Penn State team, they really bolstered the offense. They got Drew Allard, some other pieces to strengthen the offense. And that's been the knock on James Franklin when he's gotten into these big games. He's always had good defenses. That's been a standard at Penn State. We know how Penn State's been linebacker for the NFL. No problems on that side of the football. But when he gets into the big games, that vanilla offense of his causes problems. Well, they went out and got people. Last year, they got a new offensive coordinator. They got some pieces for Drew Allard. They've had a couple easy games to start the season. They've had a bye week to have 2 weeks to prepare for Oregon. What's Oregon done? Well, they're just putting up a boatload of points in all of their games, and they look very flashy getting the points in this game. This is a very important game for James Franklin, as even though he's had a great record, even though he was basically maybe one play away from playing for the national championship last year, there's been heat on him because of those failures against the top teams. They're going to take the reins off of Drew Allard this week. I think this is going to be his coming out party. And let's not forget, this is not a 12 noon Eastern start. This is a night game. And I'll tell you, you should be scheduling all of your big games at night. Get that crowd extra juiced up. And if you've ever been to Happy Valley for a whiteout, it is something special, especially when they are at night. It'll be electric at Happy Valley. I think they get the job done. And I'm just not sold on Oregon yet. I know they've done everything asked of them, but they really haven't played anybody. And this will be their toughest road test since they've entered the Big Ten. Let's see how they handle this crowd at night, traveling all the way across the country to Happy Valley. That's not an easy travel situation. I'm going to go ahead and go with James Franklin. Hopefully he doesn't blow this one with conservative play calling, but I think they get the job done. I'm going to call it Penn State 34-23.
Woo! Fading the 1-18, which is technically, like you said, top 5, 4-20, top 10. I forgot to mention those numbers, Marco, in my videos. So I love that you brought them up because hey, look, I've got a lot of Penn State fans and Ohio State fans here on the East Coast that I know personally, and I've said all along, I just don't feel like Penn State is still at that level of Ohio State. And we're going to find out a lot more about that here on Saturday night. My 10,000 game simulation favors them by 4.5, which is a little bit more above the line than 3.5. By the way, Oregon was a 3-point favorite last year in Indianapolis in that Big Ten title game. I believe they're 10-0 since joining the conference. Yet Penn State did outgame them last year. 518 yards the Nittany Lions had in that loss, even though they were down 28-10 in the second quarter. So I'm really curious. I'm going to learn a lot about both these teams, especially, as you said, James Franklin on Saturday night in this huge matchup, Oregon and Penn State. All right, you always make me hungry because you got your sandwich game of the week and whatever else, and now you got a wing sauce play of the week or a wing sauce team of the week. What are we doing with that one?
Well, if you haven't seen this one yet, we have fun, Steve, with this one. And what we do is I either pick on a coach, pick on a player, pick on a team, and I give you a sauce or try to make recommendations so you don't make mistakes with your sauce choices. And this one goes out to the 1,817 people in last week's Circa contest that took the Green Bay Packers as their survivor pick. And let's just set the stage for the day. You're all excited. You know, you're taking the Packers. They're playing Cleveland Clowns. Oh, did I say Clowns? No, I'm sorry, the Cleveland Browns. And what could go wrong? All you got to do is win. They can't get out of their own way. Joe Flacco is the quarterback. He's ancient. And so you get to your favorite Green Bay Packer bar. You order your appetizer. Well, if you're a true Green Bay Packer fan, what appetizer would that be? Well, you got to order cheese curds. All right. So you're gnawing on those cheese curds and you decide you're going to get some wings. What wings are you going to get? Trying to decide, well, we're going to go with a 20-piece order. And there's a reason. And if you go with a 20-piece order, you can split 2 different sauces. We can go 10 and 10, and that's cool. It's a long game. So our sauce choices are sweet chili and hot buffalo. We want, some diversity in our life. We want that sweetness, but we want some heat. Well, now let's start eating and let's start enjoying the game. Green Bay's up 10-0. Great. We've got them in the survivor contest. That wasn't enough action for us. We had to have a few teasers with Green Bay. Hey, 6-point teaser, you bring them down -1.5. They just got to win the game. 10-0. Cleveland can't move the football at all. you're living large, you're enjoying life, you just keep mowing down those sweet chili wings, because just like Green Bay, it's sweet watching the game. And then it gets to the fourth quarter. And then it gets to under 4 minutes to play. And Cleveland gets into scoring territory. They've got first and goal. They shoot themselves in the foot and have to settle for a field goal with the penalty. So fine, it's still 10-3. We got like 3:42 left in the game. We're getting the ball back. They're going to kick it away because they got timeouts left and try to hold us. All we need, 1 field goal or first down. You're probably good. 2, game's over. Fast forward to 3rd and 3. Jordan Love throws his first interception of the season and was hit a god-awful ugly one. There wasn't a Green Bay receiver near it, right into the hands of the defender for Cleveland, who runs it back inside the 5, and they end up punching it in. It's 10-10. Now, all of a sudden, you're nervous. You're eating what wings are left, and most of the wings that are left are those hot buffalo ones. You keep eating and eating. You're nervous. You're driving down the field. Don't worry. It's all going to work out. You're going to kick a 45-yard field goal with 20 seconds left. Game going to be over. No, it was chaos Sunday as far as kickers go. It's blocked, and Cleveland gets the ball at the Green Bay 48 and gets a couple yards, tries a 55-yard field goal at the gun, and goodbye, 1,817 survivor picks in circa, and all of a sudden, all of those hot wings that you ate at the end of the game come back with vengeance. Don't mix wings, and if you do mix them, keep them in the same sauce level. Don't go sweet and hot, or if you do, alternate your wings. Don't leave all the hot ones for the end. It could be nasty.
George likes his compound spicy, one of my favorite Seinfeld lines. So that's kind of what it came down to there. Yeah, it's funny, Marco. I thought of you last week. I even maybe gave you a shout out in my Fade the Public video because I thought that Packers-Browns game was the biggest sandwich spot of the entire NFL season for a team. I said it in the video. I said, do not use them in your Survivor contest. I would be careful with teasers, even though it's 7.5. They make a tempting teaser. They were coming off the divisional win against the Lions, the Thursday night spotlight game against not my Washington Commanders. And then, looky here, this week they're on Sunday Night Football at Dallas. So I thought of you with the sandwich situation. So it's ironic that it became a wing sauce play of the week as well in the follow-up. Marco D'Angelo, he gets it done on Bet On It. We had Bet Online on yesterday with Dave Mason, BOL. BOI is Bet On It. Kelly Stewart's coming up in a moment. You're on it as well. Tell us about that. It's Wednesdays. You can watch it 24/7 afterwards. And then also what you got at WagerTalk.
Yeah, and if you like what I do with those sandwich games, Steve, we're brought it back for the second year. I do a Marco's Deli. It's out. It comes out on Thursday night, and it's been great. We've had 3 episodes so far, and we give you we've had 5 free plays in each of those. We're 10-5 on the season, 3 winning episodes in a row. They've all been profitable, and you can get 5 more plays this week. Check that out. And if you like Bet On It, we've got a special offer with VR and myself. You can get both of us, college and pro football through the Super Bowl. Individually, $739 for me or VR. But if you buy us together, you can get us through the Super Bowl for $1,198. That is the best offer going right now. And then, of course, if you just want to look for the weekend, we still have that site-wide. Any of the cappers at WagerTalk, you can pick up that Weekend Warrior. Get all of your favorite cappers Saturday and Sunday plays in college and pro football for $49. Going back to last year, the past 2 seasons, I'm number 2 in money won at WagerTalk in college and pro combined. So highly recommend jumping on board for my plays.
Yeah, just some great offers right now at wagertalk.com. Once again, catch Marco and VR. Yanni, we had him on earlier on Bet On It every Wednesday, and it's archived 24/7. And speaking of Bet On It, Kelly Stewart's also on the show, and she's been waiting patiently in the wings here as we finish off this Friday Wager Talk today. And there's so many great offers right now at Wager Talk. I can't list them all. Just go to the website, check them out. I forgot to mention yesterday, $9 baseball best bets for every day for the rest of this weekend for the regular season. and also I believe a $9 gold sheet special this week, $7 at picksandparlays.net. Kelly, what else am I missing? I know we got like 10 other specials. We'll mention them this weekend on Last Call.
I didn't come on here to talk about specials. I came on here to talk about all the stuff that I'm doing. That's literally what I wrote you. I said, Steve, ask me what's going on this weekend on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. No, WagerTalk's got a ton of great stuff. You mentioned picksandparlays.net today, $7 Friday. Something new they're trying out over there. Obviously, the Weekend Warrior package has been doing great over the last few weekends. And of course, if you're looking for a longer term promotion, you can join up with VR and Marco in their Bet On It promotion. Save yourself a few $100 there by getting both cappers.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And I had Joe Ranieri on yesterday, and I said it was surreal me interviewing Joe because he'd been the host for hundreds of shows I'd done with him. And I don't think I've technically ever had you on as a guest, but it's been the other way around quite often. So we've completed the circle. 2 days in a row, Joe Ranieri and Kelly Stewart, the guest, Steve Merril, the host. I don't know. It's all right. I'm fine either way, as I'm sure you are. We rock it. And you've got some NFL games. It's fitting that we were talking Survivor. A strategy you and I have talked about before is you don't necessarily have to pick the right game every week. You just have to stay off some games and hope that the game theory kicks in and that you get, 1,817 people eliminated, as Marco said. We'll talk about some Survivor in a moment. Also, I think Dan's going to jump on at the end and give us his Survivor pick for the week. Some other NFL games. You mentioned the Raiders as a game you liked. Marco liked them as well. What else are you looking at in the NFL this week?
Yeah, there's a couple of games that I didn't hear you guys talk about, so I apologize if they are redundant, but I like the Colts this weekend.
Yep.
I really like what we've seen from Daniel Jones here. And more importantly, I think this is a spot that's kind of one of those letdown spots for the Rams, right? They were back-to-back games. They're on the East Coast. How do they put that Philadelphia loss behind them? I don't really know. That was just absolutely bananas. If you saw me and Prez on End Zone Live, he and I had the Eagles hand up, did not deserve to cash that ticket in the slightest. I told Prez the entire show, stop watching the game. It's over. No one cares. I even text some of my friends live and was like, go Birds, because the weekend before I had the Chiefs and they wouldn't shut up about my Chiefs bet. So I was trying to mush it any way possible and it worked. I'll take that one going my way. But that is a gut-wrenching loss for the Rams to lose in that kind of horrific fashion, to blow that type of lead. Again, I know that the Colts haven't really played anybody, or that's going to be the argument, right? Titans and Dolphins and getting lucky against my Broncos. But I don't think that they're fraudulent by any means. Right now, number 2 in EPA per play, number 2 in success rate, number 1 in EPA per pass attempt, number 1 in pass success rate, and number 5 EPA rush attempt. I think this team is still underrated and not getting enough respect. I looked on the odds logic screen a little earlier. We saw some threes coming, so hopefully you guys nab that 3.5. 3.5s in the contest will make my card.
Yeah, it's on that key number 3.5 in a lot of spots. By the way, we're not necessarily going to talk about this game, but if you check the odds logic live odds screen, you'll see as about 10 minutes ago that the Atlanta-Washington game is lighting up.
Yep.
It's gone from 2 to 2.5. Atlanta, the home favorite against not my Washington Commanders. And Penix was announced as still the starter earlier this week or yesterday. That's not why it's rising, because Jaden Daniels has been ruled out again this week. I don't think that was a huge surprise, but I guess it's enough, Kelly, to move it 0.5 point.
Yeah, look, you can find some stale lines. Steve, you should be taking advantage of those in your contest. I certainly did. I also teased the Falcons early in the week. Last night with the Cardinals, with the Steelers there on Sunday morning in Dublin, and then the line was gone. I know VR says not to do that, but of course I did that because, well, sometimes I like to break the rules. I do think I have a nice advantageous number for a Falcons team that just got their doors blown off. Speaking of Survivor, I was watching with Carm. I know Andy, who regularly hosts the show, thought they were going to get a little creative and take Atlanta last week. I was floored to see how many other people did that in the circuit contest as well. I understand wanting to zig when others zag, but when there is such a massive favorite, double-digit favorite, lots of touchdown favorites, I don't understand taking that smaller favorite. This week kind of feel the same way.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest one on the board here is Buffalo, New Orleans. I have a feeling that when Dan jumps on, I have a feeling we'll be talking about that as well.
The argument is you want to keep these teams for as long as you can, right? Why? Josh Allen is not wrapped in bubble wrap. We don't know what's going to happen. We saw Joe Burrow go down right out of the gate. Similar years, we've seen the same thing start to happen. So why would I save Cincinnati, right? They ended up winning that game in Cleveland, but I know a lot of people who did advance with them. Probably the right move. It's kind of tough to say, oh, well, I got to save Kansas City for Christmas. Okay. Patrick Mahomes has been healthy his entire career. What if he's not? I think having certain games where you save it. No, I think you take the easy win with Buffalo and you get the hell out of Dodge.
Well, and the other thing, too, is you got to look at, like, when will you have a better opportunity, even if he stays healthy? And I'm looking at the advanced schedule here. They're going to be about a 10-point favorite against New England next week. And then there are 8.5 and 9.5-point favorites in December against the Browns and Jets. If that holds up, we have no clue what the situation will be. They're going to be less than a touchdown favorite in every game, like 7 straight games after that.
I had Gianni Detroit and I cannot remember what year it was. It had to have been 5 or 6 years ago, maybe first or second year of Circa. We had the Ravens as 13.5-point favorites in week 17. And all they had to do was win the game. And guess what? They lost. They lost the game because it did not matter to them. And as far as their playoff standing goes. So those things happen as well. Like now we've added an extra week on. What if Buffalo clinches the playoffs really early? I mean, this AFC East division has not been anything to write home about in any form or fashion. They clinch early. You start seeing starters get rested, things like that. It gets a little convoluted, I think, later in the season. I'm looking at teams maybe like an Atlanta or a Tampa Bay who I think might be fighting for that wild card spot or a great spot into the playoffs. Those are the types of teams I'm looking to save late, not these best teams. Yeah, sure, we could argue don't use Detroit this week, save it. Sorry, I just realized I've just hijacked Dan's entire segment. We should just bring him in. And we should all three talk about it.
I recommended that. I actually had a private chat with him. I go, do you want to do the Survivor segment or just jump? Or do you want to jump in with
guys.
Kelly?
No, it's funny because Kelly and I
did suggest jumping in with the three.
You did. Steve isn't lying. But no, Kelly and I, we kind of already had this conversation off air before we were recording bet on it because I was kicking around. I was like, Kelly, do I just use Buffalo this week for the exact same reason? It's like, what is the point of saving these good teams? And I did, get a little cute. And Andy was one of the people who did say, I'm going with the Falcons. And I said, dude, I like Carolina a lot last week. That was one of my Circa picks. And I didn't expect them to win by 30, but they get it done. So when you get cute, when you get a little, hey, let's keep these teams alive. That's when you start playing a dangerous game. So one that I kicked around, though, even before the line move was Atlanta. I mean, it's more I want to play on a team that got that badly beaten, yet outgained the team. It wasn't like the final score was such a liar in that Falcons game. So I toyed around that, but I was like, if Andy and I both get bounced on the Falcons back-to-back weeks, I can never live with that. If I live with losing to Spencer Rattler on the road, okay, you got me. Buffalo's the pick.
That's exactly it. And that's what I said last week with Buffalo. If Tua Tagovailoa plays his ass off, doesn't throw any interceptions, which he ultimately did, and they go in and they beat their divisional rival Thursday Night Football as double-digit underdogs, I can live with that. You know what I could not live with? Having the Falcons last week, taking the Packers against the Browns. Like we all sat right here and said, those are things I can't live with myself. Taking the Bucs last week. Yes, they did end up getting the win, but I played the other side, the Jets. And I'm like, I don't want this give and take. I'm going to play the Texans in some of mine this week.
I was about to say,
I don't like the Titans plus the touchdown.
Exactly. That was the other one that I was going to say. The only other one that jumps off the board at you is Houston. And I can't trust that team with the 10-foot pole. Yes, Tennessee completely embarrassed themselves last week, and they've kind of embarrassed themselves this entire season. But
outside of the Broncos game, they have looked awful. Cam Ward's receivers cost him that Broncos game, thankfully, because I had Broncos week 1. Outside of that, they have been atrocious. Brian Callahan's going to lose his job.
Yeah, and Houston, offensive line issues. I mean, they've had offensive line issues. CJ Stroud still getting by that rookie campaign. He's never looked the same since then. So that one would be the other one I would toy with. But again, it's week 4 now. It's just survive and advance and then take it from that point. Take some risks later on rather than early. So
it also depends, Dan. Do you want, I know we're up against it time-wise, but do you want to save the Lions for Thanksgiving or Christmas? Personally, I don't. I don't.
You don't?
I don't, because I'm going to tell you why. I don't want to bet them on the road versus the Vikings on Christmas Day. I don't. Fair. I think I think Kevin O'Connell is an excellent coach. I don't think it doesn't matter who's the quarterback for that team. And let's not forget, just a few short years ago, the Packers ruined my Thanksgiving on my birthday because we took the Lions and the Packers go in and upset the Lions. I'm like, no, I want no part of that. I'm going to go Birds for Thanksgiving. I'm saving Philadelphia.
That's what I was about to say. And they won't ruin your Thanksgiving because that's the stupid Amazon Prime Friday game. So your Thanksgiving is safe. The Birds are the pick on.
Does that count in the contest?
Wants to ruin it?
Yeah.
Can you use Philly on a Friday for your Thanksgiving?
Yeah, technically is the Thanksgiving Day game slate as well. Yeah.
So that's my point. Like now saying that, like, let's hope, knock on wood, all of the Eagles players are fully healthy in there. I'm gonna have a couple other options that are still available just in case. But the Lions is not one of the teams that I want to keep. Maybe that's Baltimore. Fair. Maybe I keep Baltimore. Maybe I keep Philly. I know when I'm going to use the Packers, so I'm going to keep that in my side pocket. But that being said, like, I don't want one of these really like tough divisional matchups that we know you're going to get the best from the underdog.
Yeah, right now the projected to be about a 2.5-point favorite in both the Thanksgiving and Christmas games against the Packers and Vikings. So you're talking about a 56% chance at best to win either one.
I think you can use the Lions this week.
I agree.
We're going to go. Chris and I used the Lions a couple weeks ago because we already knew we weren't going to save them for Thanksgiving in Circa. And the 5K, I'm playing a little more conservative. I know a lot of people think, oh, just use Texans. It's the only week you can use them. I'm using Lions over there. I'm going to do probably double Texans in Circa because I do think Circa, because the pool is so much bigger, you really do have to take some more risks. In the 5K, we're down to less than 90 people. So I'm going to play a little bit more conservative and find other spots to take risks. This week isn't one of them.
Yeah, they're only projected Houston's only projected to be more than a 4-point favorite. They're going to be a 4.5-point favorite twice the rest of the season, and a dog or less than that every other game. So this is your chance to use Houston. And if you took Buffalo last Thursday night,
I did.
You might actually be in a good spot this week because you'll have to kind of take Houston or Detroit. And if you get that Buffalo upset, it's going to be like Christmas.
Exactly. Dude, that will be absolutely bananas. That will be one of the bigger upsets we've seen in the last, 10 years?
Yeah, 15-point home. The one thing I'll point out real quick, too, is, I mean, I know technically, mathematically, and the money lines are maybe a little skewed less, but like a 7-point road favorite should be the same as a 7-point home favorite. But with Survivor, since we're talking about straight up wins and not covers, I'm always hesitant to take those road favorites as opposed to a home team. And we saw that with the Packers last week.
I would much rather take a home divisional favorite than ever take a team on the road.
Correct.
That's fair.
Every time I've ever lost in Survivor, it's been minus Detroit ruining my birthday. It has been an international game where Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers were up double digits over the New York Giants, lost. It was last year, the team decided, okay, we're going to take the Saints against the Panthers. And I thought, I hate this. So not only was a road favorite in the division, they lose. Like, those are the types of spots where I feel like you're setting yourself up for failure. You may advance, but eventually that stupid divisional home underdog is going to get you. So yes, there are some spots where you can use a road favorite. Yes, there are some spots where you can use a divisional home favorite, but I think it's like a Falcons last week, double whammy. That road divisional favorite is going to get you every time.
Yeah, just to get more outlier results with road teams like that Packer-Browns game last week. The home teams find a way to will out the win. By the way, next week, Detroit's projected to be over a touchdown favorite at Cincinnati. And then in late November, before the Thanksgiving game, they're going to be about a touchdown home favorite or more against the Giants. Those are your only other two spots where you could probably use them. So if you haven't used Detroit yet, I'd say Detroit, Houston, or Buffalo. Kind of all in agreement. Dan and I are doing NFL videos after this, so I know we're fine. I just don't want to keep Kelly too long.
No. And partially the reason why I love doing the Survivor segment is because of this so bad that it's good graphic that we have of the Wager Talk Today, I Will Survive. This is Andy as Gloria Gaynor.
Unfortunately, Andy, put me on that.
Yeah, you'll never unsee this, Steve, but unfortunately, Andy did not survive last week, but he bought us like 40 entries or something like that into the Bet Online Survivor contest. So one of his entries is still alive. So technically, Andy will still survive. And now I got to share that horribly beautiful graphic.
Hey, one thing I'll leave it on this segment. I want to ask Kelly about like one other game on the way out. But, Kelly, we always say you can only use every team once. I think the one thing that gets really overlooked in Survivors is that you can play against the same team multiple times. And that's another thing playing against the Saints this week. They're projected to probably be the worst team in the NFL.
Saints. You can play against the Jets. You can play against the Giants. I mean,
the
I have
Titans.
a whole list. Yeah. Titans. I have a whole list. Let me pull it up really quick. These are the teams that I literally have on my list.
Now, it's easier said than done because
Jets,
but if you can project who's going to be that 3 or 4 win team preseason, like you could almost really do well in survivors all year long.
I mean, those teams are going to win games. You've got to find spots within that. But those are the teams I'm looking to bet against every single week. Remember, in the 5K at Westgate, you only have to play 18 teams. In Circa, you only have to play 20 teams. I'm in some where we have a bunch of double pick weeks. So that's where those strategies then have to adjust. Those double pick weeks, like this is one of my first double pick weeks in one of my other leagues, and they've seen almost nobody taken out yet. I'm a little nervous because I have Detroit and the Texans, right? Like if one of those teams loses, I'm now out of that. Whereas one of those teams loses, I'm only out of half of my survivor pools here headed into week 5.
How long do those go? I mean, even with 7 and 10 point favorites this week, you're probably just barely above 55% or so. I'm doing the quick math in my head that they both win straight up.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Those double pick weeks will get you some of the spots I'm on Splash. And that's why John Murray and I created the mini losers one, because then you can only play against the Saints one time. You can only play against.
Yeah, there are some like that. Yeah.
So I like that because then there's actual strategy. Of course, we're going to use the Saints this week across the board. Bills just going to get us an easy win. Last week we used the Dolphins against the Bills. So there are spots where you can just keep playing against the bad team, playing the good team. So that's the inverse of it. But man, it's different because of course last week everybody told me, how'd you not take Seattle? You wussed out on Seattle. I did. I like the Saints. I thought, hey, Spencer Rattler, maybe, just maybe he's going to get his receivers to make some of these catches. No, it was over before it started. So congratulations to everybody who's Seattle there. After watching them last night, there may be some other spots I can use Seattle though now.
Oh, yeah. No, I said in my Fade the Public video last week, it was one of the outlier games, but the Saints were a little public, but I thought it was also a decent setup for them. I said, do not use the Packers, do not use the Seahawks. One of these two is going to go down, and one of them did. But there again, if you use something else and you cash with Buffalo Thursday night, you've eliminated a good amount of people with that Packer. Over 1,800 eliminated with doing nothing. You could just sit back and kind of pray or hope for some good luck from the betting gods. Hey, one game we haven't touched on, I want to get on the way out because I know you have an opinion on it. Jacksonville, San Francisco, 4:05 Eastern Sunday afternoon. Sitting on that key number of 3. If you like the Niners, you lay the 3. It's 3 minus 120. South Point has 3 flat. Ooh. One of the more public books. Jacksonville has moved. It has moved to 3.5 minus money on Jacksonville at Pinnacle, maybe the sharpest book in the world. So I don't know, a little bit of a sharp square divide maybe right now if you're using South Point and Pinnacle, which I like to look at. You've got the best number on San Fran at South Point, and you've gotten a 3.5 showing now with Jacksonville at Pinnacle. So what are your thoughts on this one?
That's interesting. I was just looking to see if John Murray gave me Jacksonville last night on his list. He did not. Atlanta, Detroit,
they're
Houston.
Flat. They're 308 because they're doing 08 juice, I think, right now. So they're very flat. Yeah, so offshore, juice. I guess there's a little bit of a sharp lean offshore with San Fran, but I know you're a dog lover. I have a feeling you might disagree a little bit.
Yeah, look, I can understand why everybody wants to back San Fran, right? This is the reality. You've got Brock Purdy coming back in for Mac Jones. You've got the injured player theory with Nick Bosa. A lot of people think this defense is going to step up. I think this Jags team should absolutely be undefeated. That Bengals game was painful. And Marco talked about it on Bet on It. This was his barking dog. And I said, hey, Marco, I agree with you here. I like it as well. That was just kind of one of those wonky games that the end result did not go our way. I think that we're getting a lot of overvalued here for a hurt Brock Purdy coming back into play when the reality is he's still missing his security blanket in George Kittle. That's not a good thing. And you have to think about this. Sometimes when you take the guy away who's been the guy making the plays, bringing back in your star quarterback, can we call him a star? Maybe, maybe not. Sometimes it kind of screws with the offense a little bit. I like Trevor Lawrence coming in here and getting the win in San Francisco. I think San Francisco was the team I thought 20-1 had a lot of value to win the Super Bowl. But again, I think both these teams should be 3-0. Jaguars better than advertised.
Yeah, both these teams. I mean, the Niners are averaging 3 yards a carry. Jags are averaging less than 6 yards a pass. I mean, we're going to find out a lot about both these teams on Sunday afternoon. On that list also, saw you had the Chiefs. Teddy and I took opposite sides on that. We were forced to, but I thought we both made decent arguments. You're the tiebreaker. You like KC. But here again, 2.5 juiced Baltimore. If you like KC, I would wait. I think some threes might show by kickoff on Sunday.
Oh, of course they are. Has a good team, right? We have public perceptions. Kansas City good, this team bad, right? So Kansas City has done what? Travis Kelce cost them the game against Philly. They lost week 1 in Brazil. And, well, Russell Wilson basically gifted them that game last Sunday night. The Chiefs are not any good, right? What is going on with this Ravens defense? They are beyond exploitable. And I get accused of being a Chiefs hater all the time, but Patrick Mahomes as an underdog is generally going to make my list. I think Kansas City in a teaser spot is excellent. I already teased them, as I mentioned, with the Steelers, the Falcons, the Cardinals, and the Broncos earlier in the week. I think Kansas City gets this win. This Ravens defense is going to get exposed unless Lamar Jackson has the best game of the season. I just don't see this Baltimore team having the cojones to go into Kansas City and get the win. They have not showed me any grit in whether that second half versus Buffalo, whether in that second half versus Detroit. There is something missing in this team. Our good friend Ariel Epstein went on an absolute tear on TikTok about it. Go over there and check it out because she explains it so much better as a Ravens fan. This team is very frustrating. I don't trust them as a road favorite.
Yeah, Ariel's dialed in with the Ravens. What was her grandfather was a Ravens fan or was a Baltimore person, I think, at some point. That's the connection for the New Yorker, the Syracuse grab, Aaron Epstein, Baltimore Raven. But she follows him closely. And, we'll find out a lot. One of these teams, most likely, I said, could be 1-2-1, but 99% chance one of these teams will be 1-3 after Sunday. By the way, cojones, 5-1 odds that would be said today. I don't know how to spell it.
You should have made it way higher than that.
Yeah, it probably is a lot higher. But once again, they will futures don't let you take the other side. That's why futures are bad bets because there was no minus 1,000 on the no, and we would have taken advantage of that bet anyway. But I don't know how to spell cojones, but I've got them. I've got a pair. Hey, look, on that list, you got Raiders, and we talked a couple. Marco mentioned the Raiders as well, so you agree there. And then Teddy actually liked the Bucs. I see you got the Bucs. So quick thoughts on those.
Yeah, the Raiders. The Raiders, right? We saw this Bears team last week, right? Everybody said the line was fishy. No one could make sense of it. And all of a sudden they win 31-14. But if you actually go back and you remember at the end of the second quarter, the game was tied. CeeDee Lamb hurt. Dak Prescott still 31 of 40. Javonte Williams still able to get it going on the ground. But that Dallas defense does what they do, and they fell apart. I think Geno Smith, if he can not turn over the ball, he did very well not doing that in his loss last week. 19-29, 289 yards, 3 touchdowns. I think that Raiders team can they win at home. Bears 4-14 in September. Please do not overreact to one good game by Caleb Williams. And the last one is the Bucs against the Birds. I mentioned how I was saving them for Survivor later on. This is an interesting matchup, right? I've seen 3 of these games since I've lived in Florida, and it's always nuts. Birds fans come down here, can't behave themselves, act like jerks. At least the last playoff game, they got really stifled. And that was a fun one. I had a considerable amount of money on the Bucs there because it was one of those situational spots where you want to take this team. Now, I have questions about the 3-0 Bucs, right? Every single game they've been in has been down to the wire, whether it was a last-minute field goal last week versus the Jets, whether it was a missed field goal by the Falcons, whether it was the Texans just being Swiss cheese on defense. But this is the spot you want to take them here at home. Raymond James Stadium is going to be absolutely hot, on fire. And I don't mean the audience. It's going to be a hot weekend in Tampa. The field projections are talking 103 with humidity. So keep in mind there, we talked about the Colts and how the Rams come back from that wonky loss. How does Philadelphia respond after basically being gifted win number 3 on a silver platter by the gambling gods? I think this line is just a touch too high. I like the Bucs plus 3.5 at home.
Making history here on Wager Talk TV. I think I've officially run the longest Wager Talk Today ever. We're like an hour 16 in. This is our hour 14 in. We started like 2 minutes late because I was coming in hot. But the other thing that's made history is this new show, End Zone Live, on Sundays. Did we hit over 10K yet? I know we got like 9,900 that one week.
It was pretty close on Sunday. It was pretty fun. I actually will admit I was wrong. I thought no one's going to watch the show. Why would you want to watch a bunch of people watch?
I've yet to come on. I didn't pencil it in my schedule.
And then I did last week, and I was supposed to leave at halftime, and I ended up staying for the whole game. Basically, I just made fun of Prez the whole time. It was wonderful. Had a great time about his crappy internet and him being on a delay. Andy was coming in, giving us some live lines. Teddy coming in and giving you guys some live bets. Those are great. Mad Russian ended up pushing his live bet. He gave Prez Eagles -7. Eagles +7 live, or Rams +7. I don't remember. It was hilarious. The commentary was absolutely electric. I'm excited again for this Sunday. I do have to head up to my dad's, so I probably will not pop on until the second half. We'll see what's going on. But yeah, Sunday, as soon as the games kick off right here on the Wager Talk YouTube channel, you guys can also hang out. Ariel is going to be hosting Last Call on Sunday, and then followed up with VR in his Steam room. It's going to be just an electric Sunday on the Wager Talk YouTube channel.
Yeah, once again, if you click subscribe, we have over 220,000 subscribers now. I think we picked up like over 6K in the last month, which is insane. Thank you to everybody. Just double check. If you haven't clicked it, click it. But consider clicking that bell as well, because you'll get an instant alert when these shows go live throughout the weekend, when my Fade the Public video goes up this weekend, and you'll never miss out here on Wager Talk TV. Kelly, great seeing you. Are you doing Last Call tomorrow on Saturday, or is Ariel in for
So I will be doing Last Call tomorrow on Saturday.
Gotcha.
So you guys can catch me. It's going to be me, Ralph Michaels, Art to Caesar from the Westgate Superbook, and of course, Yanni the Greek giving us all of that last minute steam. And then Sunday, I got to look and see who's on the Sunday schedule. I make this schedule. You would think that I would have it memorized by this point in time.
the spreadsheet?
John, I'm a spreadsheet girl. If we didn't know that, if we've learned anything in the last year, that I'm the spreadsheet girl. Sunday, it's going to be it's going to be VR. It's going to be John Murray from the Westgate Superbook, Carmine Bianco going to come on and talk some NFL with Ariel as well. So it should be a fun-filled Sunday. And then, of course, Monday Night Football. Joe Madden's going to be hosting Last Call there before the Monday Night Football game.
Well, if you need a filler at the very end tomorrow, let me know. I'm off Sunday. I won't be able to jump on End Zone Live again. I thought maybe I was going to make a segment, but I won't be able to do it Sunday either. But if you need someone late tomorrow, Saturday, to close out, or to put a record show, a Last Call over noon Eastern kickoffs, let me know.
No, I need that last 10-minute buffer.
I know you do. I'm messing with you.
Put in some of those last-minute bets that may or may not have been given to me by the Westgate Superbook. Steve, we'll keep you in mind. We'll see how that goes. I'll send you a text tomorrow morning.
I'm good. I think when it all added up, I've done about 15, 16 free play videos. Dan Alexander and I are knocking out the NFL videos right after this Friday afternoon. Thank you to Kelly Stewart, Marco D'Angelo, Yanni the Greek, Teddy Covers. I feel like we had half a Wager Talk on today. Dan Alexander jumping in. And as I mentioned, going to do the NFL videos this afternoon, including Fade the Public. It'll be up later tonight and Saturday. So click the bell when you subscribe here for instant alerts. All the college football content is up for the week, including my top 25 video, which went up this morning. 6 games broken down in that top 27 video, to be exact. And then, of course, you can get my personal best bets at WagerTalk.com, Steve Merril, including today's free play. Go check out the bonus free play that I post every day on my page, Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com. Get there quicker with shortcut WT.buzz/SM. And while you're there, whether you're on my page or anybody else's at WagerTalk, check out all the special offers. Too many to name here. We've got 1 month, 1 year specials. Even the Weekend Warrior for just $49 gets you all the football Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. WagerTalk.com, and follow us also at WagerTalk on X. Thanks to Dan Alexander for producing and running overtime here. And stay tuned to Wager Talk TV, because you know there's more free play videos coming up next.